I respect all mankind. I try to do good. I try to respect myself. My name is Elvis Ndubuisi Iruh. I'm a Nigerian by birth. I was born 47 years ago, precisely 9th April 1965. I started practicing journalism in 1984, and to date I'm still in journalism. I started my journalism with Lagos State Television. Then it was the television and the radio station together. So I was sent to the radio session, so I was involved in gathering of news, broadcasting of news. Actually, I made a youth program. It was called YG's Club, where I could practice. And I had 1 year experience there, but it was boring for me because it was a government controlled media. Everything that was written or said has to start with the governor said, the commissioner said, the minister said. And when I go back home and I reflect on it, I'm like, no, this is not the type of journalism I want to practice. I don't want to keep repeating what the governor said and what the minister said. So I decided to branch off to the print. And that was how I lost my interest for television. I ended up in the print. So I worked for a news magazine called City News. Then from City News, I moved to one of the very controversial magazines that started what we called guerrilla journalism in Nigeria. It was called Razor. That was after the annulment of the June 12 election in 1993. And then we had Razor, we had the News, Newswatch. Those were the prominent publications then. But it was a very aggressive style of journalism. People thought I was even too soft to be involved with such a publication because I was a quiet, easygoing type. I rose from being a news reporter to becoming the editor of the publication. But of course that got me into trouble. I was arrested a couple of times, sent to jail under Babangida and Abacha administration. And it was the genesis of those problems that took me out of Nigeria. After the annulment of the June 12 election, my publication, The Razor, we took a stand. You know, that Nigerians deserve to know what happened to that election, and that we wanted the result to be released. I personally went to interview late MK Abiola in his home, and he gave me a very exclusive interview where he asked me to quote him that I would declare myself president. And that quote was used as the cover of our publication. I would declare myself president. And of course that night the police came and raided the whole office and carted away our computers. They arrested my publisher. I was detained for 1 week, and then I was taken to court the next week. And that was very funny because when they read the accusation sheet, I was being accused and charged for treason, and that I was planning through our publication to overthrow the Abacha administration. And I laughed because I didn't know what else to do, than to laugh. So I laughed, and the judge felt offended, and because of that he asked or ruled that I should be taken back to the police custody and spend another 1 week. So I was taken back, in handcuffs. The detention itself was not really the ordeal, but the interrogation. They put handcuffs. They put me on a rail, with your hands tied, and they threatened to knock off the stool if you don't tell them the story, what they want to hear. And that could really be painful. Then it's like they're pulling off your hands. It was the mental torture, the trying to break down your will. I went to Germany. That was my point of entry, and I did ask for political asylum, but it was denied within 1 week because they didn't believe my story, because they felt, one, I was young, and one, they thought I couldn't be the person that I was talking about. I was detained, and they wanted me to prove with documents. But as you can imagine, somebody was fleeing from a country. I didn't come with any document. Actually, I had to leave the Nigerian airport in disguise. But they didn't believe me, you know. But I was saved by a professional body in UK who knew my story, and they decided to give me a job, you know. So rather than being sent back to Nigeria, they offered me a contract to work in Europe as a journalist. I got married to a very beautiful woman, and yeah, that changed everything. That I decided to keep my base in the Netherlands. I have two beautiful daughters. I also had a very passionate relationship with the church. So I got involved with a ministry called Victory Outreach International. I had opportunity to go to the Bible school, so I got trained and ordained as a pastor in 2006. And after my ordination, there was an opportunity for a missionary to be sent to Kenya. And so in March 2006, we left everything behind in Holland with our two little girls, and we moved to Kenya, to a city called Kisumu, to do the work of God. So we started a church with about 20 people, and we grew it to over 200, established a recovery home for men, for people with drugs and alcohol problem. And all of those experiences drew me closer to understanding that we need to create a better opportunity for people around us. And so what I did was to start a foundation. It's called Stichting Paddi, Europa, People Against Drug, Independency and Ignorance. And people always ask me, were you involved in drugs? No, I've never been involved in drugs, but I've seen the impact of drugs. You know, working as a journalist, I moved around people like Fela Anikulapo Kuti of blessed memory, a great man. But I saw young people using drugs around him, and most of them became destitute. And some of these drugs were coming from Europe. Then I've never been to Europe, but I saw the danger that if we don't do anything about it, many of our youth will end up using these drugs like cocaine, like heroin, and we don't have a good rehabilitation facility for them, and so they become destitute, and it was a huge problem. So I started this foundation to address that. So I took that concept with me when I was going to Kenya to work with young people in Kenya, and I can tell you quite a huge stories of success of young people that we picked from the street in Kenya, in Kisumu, and that we help to rehabilitate, empowered, and today they are doing well. They have their own little project, their own little business, and they are doing very well. The concept of The Voice magazine started during my working experience as a foreign correspondent here. My first target was to interview Africans who are here doing whatever type of job they are doing, and report back to the publication in the UK. So why I did that, I discovered that there was a lot of things going on within the community. In fact, I had volumes of stories that I could make, and I was like, sometimes I wrote 3-4 stories, and the publication in the UK could only publish one. So then I have 3 unpublished. So then I thought to myself, we need to create something for our community. Amazingly, when we released it, I think we made 500 copies. We sold nearly 490 copies. And then the next one, we took it to an Africa event, the African show in Delft. And then we were hawking it just as the program was going on. The two of us, I still have pictures of that, you know, we were just taking it around. And literally, people started coming to us to ask, can I get a copy? Can I get a copy? Both Africans and Dutch people. And that was the conviction that we needed to get. And once we got that, we said, okay, there is a need for this within our community. After 10th anniversary, we discovered, because of the economic realities and the difficulties, that the sales were really dropping. But then we asked ourselves, do people still want to read, or because they don't have the finance? And so we made a test copy that we made free, and everything was gone. It's actually becoming more profitable now that it is free than it was when it was being sold, because then the unsold copies, we had difficulties how to dispose it. What do we do with it? You know, we didn't have access to recycling machine that we can recycle the paper and reuse it again. So now, I mean, we are sure now if we print 100,000 copies, we don't get anything back. It is consumed by the public. Actually, we commissioned students of the University of Amsterdam 2 years ago to do a survey and a research of the readership of The Voice, and it was quite surprising the outcome of what we got, that we had stronger readership among non-Africans than Africans themselves. So we had a lot of patronage from the Dutch institutions, the top NGOs, the academic institutions, the African study centers across the country. And it's also not only circulated in Holland. You can find The Voice in the whole Benelux Europe. So we have correspondents in Spain, in Germany, in Italy, even as far as to Russia. We send it to 25 countries outside of Europe. So it goes to Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Kenya, South Africa, Zimbabwe. So all of the places where we have good contacts, we send the magazine there. I had an experience, and I'll share that with you. The former Dutch Prime Minister, Wim Kok, I used to send a copy to his office, and I didn't know he was looking through the magazine. And at a function, I think in 2005, hosted by the Queen, and yearly she invited the foreign press to have dinner with her, and I was one of those in the guest list, and I had opportunity to talk with the Prime Minister. And so while we were chatting, he just took me aside and says, "You are the publisher of The Voice?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "It's a very good magazine, I like it." And he pleaded with me. He said, "Listen, I know when your money comes, when you become big, that you'll be tempted to change this concept and make it a Western magazine. But," he said, "please don't do it." He says, "Leave it the way it is." He said, "I receive volumes of copies of magazines, newspapers every day or every week on my table, but yours stands out. He said that you have a beautiful African woman on the cover, with a beautiful hair tie, something that says, 'Look at me.'" Yeah, and I kept that to heart. We thought it will not be enough just to have a party and people come to it, but also to look into our community and recognize and honor people who are making outstanding contributions. And that's why we set up a committee to select some names from the community. We're going to be recognizing that night. We're going to be giving what we call outstanding achievers award, and it cuts across the board: women, men, young, a little bit elderly, in various fields of life. So it's not going to just be an entertainment, but it's going to be to recognize these people. And we say it's a sort of mentoring event, so that you see the older coming with the young, and they can share ideas with each other, and then the young ones can have even things to inspire them to do more. And those who are not winning something will also say to themselves, "I want to have this next year. I want to be part of this. So I'm going to put more effort in what I'm doing." And that is the whole essence of this event. The type of people I would like to reward: the cleaner. Many years, Schiphol Airport have always been awarded the best cleaning airport in the world. But 95% of the workers at the airport there are Africans, migrants from Africa, from various countries in Africa: Nigeria, Ghana, Somalians. I want to bring out those people and put them on a platform like this and acknowledge them for the wonderful work they are doing. Those picking all the rubbish in the Bama, in the train stations across Holland. A majority of them are African migrants. The scholars, who are in the university walls, giving education not only to Africans but to the Dutch, to all foreign students here. There's a lot of African lecturers in this country. I joined the church in 1999, and this has been my home. I got my training here, and I was ordained a pastor here, and from here I went to Kenya. So this has been home. So in 5 years' time, I really don't see myself doing something different from what I'm doing now, maybe on a higher scale. As I'm talking to you, I have an offer to come to Liberia for 6 months, also in the area of empowering people. So the work I do, people are getting to know about it, and Liberia came out of war. They are still trying to recover. And I want to take up the offer. So I'll be gone for about 6 months. So I will not only be helping them physically, but spiritually. So I see myself as a tool that helps in both ways. So I help them physically, and then I'm able to help them spiritually. And when you combine both, you become a complete human being. My vision now is to build the Voice magazine and prepare the next generation. I have a young team that is working with me now, young Africans. Some of them are still studying, and already I'm exposing them to the details of the magazine, reporting news, gathering news, editing news, page laying. And in the next 5 years, I would really love to see a young African who will be taking over the magazine as editor-in-chief, and I could be on the sideline. I respect all mankind. I try to do good. I try to respect myself. I have a good family. My wife is very supportive in all that I do. My children are very supportive, and yeah. So that is what I've learned, that when you change environment, you do your best to become better.